Hey, what's up, ladies and gentle-tubers? My name is Tyler. Welcome back to the Everride channel, where today we're talking about everybody's most favorite adventure motorcycling and dual sport subject, insurance. Now, this video is not going to break any records for views or anything like that. Nobody likes talking about insurance. However, if you've been following the channel for any amount of time, the last couple of months, you know that I recently lost my beloved DRZ 400 Black Widow when a side-by-side rolled down a hill and plowed into it like a Predator missile into a Toyota SUV. So as I've navigated my own insurance claim on this recently totaled motorcycle, I've realized that this information is absolutely critical for adventure, dual sport, and plated dirt bike owners. Because not only do we need to be covered on the road, like any car or anything like that, but what happens when we send it up a gnarly hill climb and just don't quite make it, and we loop out and watch our beloved steed barrel down the hill like a tornado through a yard sale? Or when you neglect the beaver signs by the formerly 6-inch deep stream, charge it, and hydrolock your piston, or when you just generally stack it hard and need to cruise to the hospital to get set and sewn up and rebuilt. Well, for our type of riding, it's not really a matter of if this happens, but when. And unless you want to cover those bills yourself, you will need decent insurance, and not all companies are the same. Now, having that license plate not only lets us ride where unplated bikes can't, but we have insurance advantages besides covering busted bones and broken bikes. Now, if you're like me, you've never really looked into what your insurance is actually covering, what it would pay out, or what other perks that it might have. It's kind of like blinkers on a dual sport. You get them to be legal, but really once that plate is on there, yeah. That is until your precious bike, all of its mods, all of its accessories, and $5,000 worth of camera gear is a steaming, mangled heap of twisted metal and plastic, pinned under the skid plate of a side-by-side. And then you really start to wonder about insurance. So enough of the jabbering, let's throw on our business socks because it is business time. So making the claim was totally different than what I thought it would be. First of all, I thought I'd have problems since it happened off-road on a trail, and the one at fault was an uninsured rental side-by-side with an unlicensed driver. Well, it turns out it didn't matter that it was off-road, or really whose fault it was. My company just wanted to get me taken care of really quickly, and they'd work out the side-by-side dude's insurance stuff later. I asked if my premium would go up, and they said no. And then came the adjustment part of it, which was a surprise to me too. And that's just where the company wants to know the extent of the damage done so that they can either pay for repairs or just cut a check for the value of the motorcycle. And I'm not sure if it's because of the Rona or what's going on, but they never even sent an adjuster out. Instead, they had me upload pictures and a short video describing the damage on the motorcycle. So I did a quick walk around and explained the damage, and without ever seeing the bike in person, they went ahead and counted it as a total loss, even though, you can't really see a lot of the damage from the pictures. Now there's more to it, but a total loss meant that they were going to pay me the value of the motorcycle. And this is super important because the NADA or NADA or whatever it is, they valued my glorious Black Widow, my motorcycle, at $800. And my deductible was a pretty standard $700. So my heart was just crushed to learn that my deductible, or what I had to pay out of pocket in a wreck, would barely cover the bike. If that were really the case, then what was I even paying insurance for? So if your insurance company, if they quote NADA or NADA in your claim, don't settle for that garbage. I told my insurance that $800 was extremely low, so I asked them to get a price comparison from local dealers, and they said yes. So they contacted 4 different dealers in my area, from Salt Lake City all the way to Las Vegas, and they got quotes for early model DRZ 400s like mine. And I'm really glad they did this for me because they adjusted the worth of the bike to $1,800, which is much more realistic for the value of the bike. And it's actually about what I bought it for 8 years ago because these bikes just keep their value. But that's not all, because the bike had a ton of mods and it was worth far more than $1,800, and more on that later. But for now, let's go back in time and talk about making this claim. So I'm going to assume one of two things if you have to make a claim on your motorcycle. Either your bike is minimally damaged, in which case you'll pay your out-of-pocket deductible and then they'll cover the rest of the cost, or the damage is significant enough that they'll declare the bike a total loss. Now, from what my insurance dude told me, in many cases, they'd rather just total out a damaged motorcycle rather than try to do repairs. And they do this for three reasons. First, if the damage is minimal, they're counting on you and your out-of-pocket deductible to handle most of the small repairs and reduce the amount of frivolous claims that they get. Second, for many motorcyclists, and especially for us dual sport guys, our bikes aren't often worth a whole lot more than the deductible anyway. And third, if a motorcycle is damaged and they don't declare it as a total loss and that damage results in a future injury for you or for somebody else, they don't want that coming back to bite them in a lawsuit. So they play it safe, and many times they'll just declare it a total loss even when it's fairly minor damage. So what happens in a total loss situation, aka your bike is totaled? That's why it's total loss. Now this is important to know with your specific insurance company because some companies give you the option to let you keep your motorcycle while others will not. And you absolutely want the option to keep or buy back your motorcycle. In my case, they told me that they could either take the bike to a salvage yard and cut me a check for the full value of the motorcycle minus the deductible, or I could keep the motorcycle and they'd cut me a check for a smaller amount. Now I chose to keep my motorcycle, and here's why. Depending on your situation, your bike might have a lot of mods and aftermarket parts on it that you can salvage, and whether they're damaged or not, those actually count towards the total insurance payout on top of the value of the bike. And here's how. And really, this is another absolutely critical question to ask your insurance company. Do they cover only the cost of the motorcycle, or will they also cover additional accessories and modifications to the bike? And if so, how much do they cover? And I was very lucky because Progressive includes $3,000 worth of accessory coverage onto my policy. Now, if you've done your suspension, that alone is worth at least $1,000. And here's where you want to be careful and clear with your insurance company too. If your bike has aftermarket mods or accessories, then you absolutely need this accessory coverage. If your company doesn't offer that, then switch companies. Now, in my case, Progressive asked for receipts for these aftermarket parts, which obviously I didn't keep. So word to the wise, keep your receipts for all of your mods and parts. But don't worry if you don't have those receipts. Progressive, luckily, was really chill about it, and they asked me if they could have a list of all the aftermarket parts on the bike and then some kind of proof of what those parts cost. Well, that was really easy. I made a list, I copy-pasted a link from Rocky Mountain ATV MC and listed their prices, and that ended up being good enough for them. So you may want to ask your insurance about receipts though, because if they only accept receipts, then you may be up a creek if you can't produce those. So in my case, I straight up told them that not every mod or aftermarket part had been damaged in the wreck. And I'm showing you right now the report that I wrote up for them. And my insurance dude didn't care. He actually advised me to keep the bike and just pull off all the salvageable parts, because either way, the insurance was going to pay me for those mods and parts. And, okay, let me say this again because this blew my mind. In the total loss claim, they were going to pay me $3,000 for the mods on my bike, whether they were damaged or not. That meant that if I kept the motorcycle, Progressive was happy to pay me $3,000 for the parts that I was still going to keep, even if they were totally salvageable, if they were fine. So in effect, Progressive paid me for my seat concept seat and my Clark gas tank and my FMF exhaust and my Warp 9 foot pegs, Wolfman bags, and a dozen other things that were totally salvageable, totally fine. And I can now salvage those parts and put them on another DRZ build, or sell them, or do whatever I want with them. They're mine. Now here is a huge caveat to that. If you decide to have your insurance company come take your bike and pay out the full value of the motorcycle for your claim, if you pull parts or accessories off it before they take it, that's insurance fraud, which I'm pretty sure is a felony. So, don't do that. So after all was said and done in my claim, here were my numbers. My DRZ was worth $1,800. the accessories maxed out the accessory coverage worth $3,000, and my deductible was $700. So if they were going to take the bike, they would have paid out about $4,100. But I chose to keep the motorcycle and all the mods, and they still paid out $3,300. So it worked out really good in a lot of ways, but it turns out that my policy did not cover my damaged camera equipment. So I later learned that for something like $30 a year, I could buy coverage for my camera equipment that applied to all of my motorcycles. And so in my case, where I'm filming people out on these rallies with really expensive equipment, that's definitely worth it. And here's another thing, I also learned that insurance policies can include complimentary roadside assistance for flat tires or towing or even hotel stays and meals, so you might want to check that out too. So, knowing what you know now, here are the things that you should literally call your insurance company right now and figure out if you get them. I'm serious, this could save you thousands of dollars. First of all, are they strict about using the NADA guides? If so, switch companies. NADA is infamously low for motorcycles, especially older bikes, so make sure that your company is okay with getting several independent quotes from local dealers to reflect the actual value of your motorcycle. Don't settle on their numbers. Do what you have to do to prove the value of your motorcycle, even if that means copy-pasting Craigslist ads for similar bikes. Second, what is your deductible? Meaning, what are you responsible for paying out of pocket should you need to file a claim? This amount will let you know if it's even worth filing a claim if the damage is repairable. So in most cases involving motorcycles, minor damage can and should be fixed by you out of pocket anyway. And if you do need to file a claim because there's major damage, well, that will probably warrant a total loss claim. Third, are your accessories, aftermarket parts, and modifications covered? If your bike is bone stock, then this doesn't matter. If your bike is the Millennium Falcon of dual sport motorcycles, this is going to pay off should you have to file a claim. Knowing what I know now, I should actually increase my accessory coverage on a lot of my motorcycles. You'll also need to know what kind of documentation your insurance company requires to cover these accessories. Are they strict about receipts, or will they accept a list like mine? Super important to know. Fourth, will the company let you keep your motorcycle with a reduced payout if it's a total loss? Or if they're going to take your motorcycle, where can you buy it back? Is it at a salvage yard? You're going to want to know that information. And again, this is critical if you have a lot of mods that you want to salvage. If your bike is bone stock and you're good with just taking the regular payout, that's okay. Fifth, do you need extra coverage for camera equipment or for bodily injury? If you get really injured, are you going to be out of work? Do you need additional coverage? All these things can be added to your policy. In fact, I learned that full coverage is only slightly more than liability only, and it comes with a lot of extra perks. So if you want to be covered in those, send it type crashes where your bike's careening down a hill and it's totally your fault, you're going to want full coverage, even if you own your motorcycles outright. And sixth, does your insurance company offer any other perks like roadside assistance, towing, hotel stays, meals, or anything like that? And if they do, it's good to know that number, what number to call in case your adventure has a hiccup and you need to use it. So you guys, thank you so much for watching. Hopefully that was some helpful information and that you've learned from some of my mistakes and that you get things sorted out so that you're covered. Again, I know it's not the most exciting topic, but it could save you thousands and thousands of dollars, especially if you were unaware of some of those things. And unfortunately, it's kind of a fact of life that some insurance companies can be kind of shysty and totally hose you when it comes to the fine print, even though they've been taking your premiums, your money for years because of some overlooked thing, because we don't really pay attention. So pay attention, you guys. I urge you to call your insurance company right now, shop around for good rates, and hopefully this, saves you in a pinch. But you guys, thanks again for watching. Thanks for listening. Hope you have many awesome rides, and hopefully you don't need to claim insurance stuff, but if you ride like I do, you're probably going to. Anyway, guys, much love. Thank you for watching. Everride out.